Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back to the Dynasty HeatSeekers live stream and podcast. I'm your host, Rick Butts, here with the legendary Anthony and also legendary Jason. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good,
Doing good.
good.
Good deal.
Good. So today we are going to be talking about the AFC and NFC North. We have already covered which two, Anthony? I don't even remember which one, what we've done. East and South? No,
We
East
did
and
the
West.
West. Yeah, we did the West and we did the East.
So now we got North this week and South next week. So that's where we're at. We're missing one. I don't know if he's going to show up partway through or not, but we'll make sure to cover his teams as best as possible. All right. Why don't we just get straight into that news and notes? And before we do that, make sure you hit that like button on this video. That helps us a ton. And if you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. You need to go ahead and do that too. But news and notes, Anthony, what do we got first?
Yeah, your boy spotted in a walking boot. I think that's probably the biggest news this week. People are a little concerned about Kenyon Drake. Saw in a walking boot. Kenyon Drake kind of brushed it off. He said, this time last year I was in a walking boot too. It's just precautionary. And he also sent out a tweet. I don't know if you saw the tweet he sent out. He said, "You're going to be smiling like this if you draft me in your leagues because I'm going to take you to the championship." But you guys concerned about Kenyon Drake at all?
Not a bit. Not a bit. Just like he said last year, he was injured at this time in a walking boot. But, it came out, the team first said it was precautionary, and then he came out and said the same thing, said that he's fine and he's going to be okay. And until I hear something worse, I'm ready for him to go. I have a lot of Kenyon Drake this year, and I'm ready for him to carry me to that championship. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Jason, you there? Jason, you there?
We can't hear you.
Well, we can circle back to Jason if we want to try to give him a minute there to figure that out.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Go ahead with the next bit of news and notes.
Well, Theo Riddick signed in Las Vegas for the Raiders. I don't think Theo Riddick is necessarily fantasy relevant, but personally, I think that this just kind of dampens the PPR attractability of Josh Jacobs. They said they wanted to get Josh Jacobs, catching the ball more, being a three-down back. I don't understand then why you're gonna, bring in Theo Riddick, draft Bowden, So I just kind of think that is newsworthy just because of the Josh Jacobs aspect of it. Do you have any thoughts there, Rick?
Yeah, I think that we also have to remember that Theo Riddick, the last time he was on the field, was a prominent PPR back. Like he, I can't remember if he was probably at least a high running back 3 in 2018, but he missed all of last year, at least like 95% of it, didn't play much, and them adding him to that backfield does tell me that they are looking at pass catchers, and after drafting Bowden and giving Richard a contract,
nice contract.
It doesn't lead me to believe that they think Josh Jacobs is going to catch. Yes, he can get more than he had last year. That's not going to be hard to do. I think he had 20 catches last year and only 27 targets. So he had only like 2 targets per week. So yeah, it's not hard to get more than that. But if you're going to break out and get 50, 60 like was rumored, then what are they doing just bringing in these PPR backs and not bringing in backs to help with carries? Because they don't really have another back in that backfield that I feel comfortable giving a large amount of carries to, and that worries me a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Are we have Jason back yet? I don't think so. Nope, I don't know what Jason did over there. He was fine right before we started, so.
Oh, yeah, he's not in our Skype call anymore. Maybe he's restarting that.
I agree with you, though. You know, and a lot of people are kind of just brushing off this Theo Riddick news, like, oh yeah, who cares? You know, just a depth signing. But I don't know, man. You're worried about Jacobs getting the ball. I agree. I think this is kind of a red flag on the PPR Josh Jacobs front. So I think we agree there.
Yeah, if you're going for depth, like why is all your depth pass catchers and nobody that can get some carries for you? I mean, what happens to this team if Josh Jacobs misses time like he did last year? They don't have anybody that you can feel comfortable giving the ball to. I don't know how they're going to run it. There are some guys, obviously, on NFL in NFL free agency right now that maybe they would look to add or something like that. But there's not a lot of quality out there right now. So I have no idea what their plan is. But when it comes to the pass catching, I am more worried about that than I was when the rumors came out about 50 to 60 receptions for Josh Jacobs. Because we heard that talk last year from Seattle with Chris Carson, right? He's going to catch the ball more, and he did. At the beginning of the year, he was catching the ball quite a bit before he had some injuries. So I thought, maybe we will see an uptick. Maybe even if we got to 30 or 35 from Jacobs, that changes his outlook, because that's like the area where it's like minimum to be an easy top 12 running back, right? With the amount of rushing yards he gets, if he can approach that 30 to 35, he's going to be right in the running for that year in and year out. Without it, though, it makes it a lot tougher. I mean, there's only been like 5 seasons of a running back one over the last like 4 to 5 years of guys that got less than 30 receptions, and 2 of them are Derrick Henry. And Jordan Howard, I think, had 2 of them. So outside of that, you don't get a lot of guys not catching the ball get top 12. I got to call Jason back here.
Yeah, the last bit of news I have here for the week that was kind of major was Dalvin Cook is breaking off contract talks. It looks like for Dalvin Cook, at least, staying in Minnesota isn't looking as likely. But of course, talks could resume at any time, prior to the season starting, or even during the season or immediately after the season. So that's still to be determined there. But it looks like Dalvin Cook and the Vikings may not be together for much longer.
Yeah, I don't necessarily read into that. I think there comes a point where if you care about your team and you care about doing well, then the contract negotiations become a moot point, and you push them off to the side and you wait till after the year so that you can concentrate on the football season. Obviously, we know that running back contracts are harder to come by. That second contract is a lot harder to get for running backs than the rookie contract, and for any compared to most other positions, it's very hard to get that second contract. I mean, I look at Dallas doesn't have their deal done with Dak, and there's just a lot of stuff that this could be. It could just be he wants to concentrate on the team. They're in a division where they're projected to finish towards the top, so they have a chance to go to the playoffs. And if he's worried about that, then you cut those conversations off, and you worry about that after the season.
Sure.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, I can't see you though.
All right, I'll be back in 1 second. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, you're
all right.
We on Cook here?
Yes.
Yeah, you're
contract talk. Yeah, I think he's gonna sign him. The Vikes are gonna sign him, and I think they'd be dumb not to. That's their star running back, so he's got to, he's going to be producing, and he wants to be on the field. The guy's a huge teammate guy, and he's loved in the locker room. He wants to be kept around, and I think the Vikes are going to do that. Probably a 4-year deal.
We gotta get your sound working because it's like all
You
muffled
sound underwater.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right into this. I think we were all pretty much on the same page, but that deal will probably get done after the season if they get it done. Just because I'm sure both sides, they just want to worry about winning this year and then go from there. So go ahead and Jason, start us off with the Ravens, and I'm gonna move the stuff down that we don't have covered to the bottom, and then we'll hit that after we all get our teams in.
All right, yeah, we got Baltimore Ravens. We got Lamar Jackson, number 1 quarterback last year. The guy was amazing. He was making plays all over the place, mainly on his feet, and he threw a lot of touchdowns and surprised a lot of people because they didn't believe that he could do it and throw. And I think he's going to come out this year and be a force on the field, both running and throwing. And then you got Mark Ingram, who's locked in at the running back, and he's going to be, he's going to hold it down, and he'll probably score a lot of touchdowns. But the thing is that they drafted Dobbins, who's going to come in and probably take some of the share away from him. But I don't expect it to be right away, more as we carry on into the season. And then you got Hollywood Brown, who's pretty electric. He's really fast, super fast, dude. I love watching him play. He's probably their wide receiver 1, but he doesn't have the typical size of an alpha. So we're kind of seeing what he can do still. Devin Duvernay is another guy that they just brought in. He's super speedster as well, and he's probably more chiseled to be the guy that they're gonna dump it off to and let him make a play. And then you got Miles Boykin, who he's got a chance. He's really athletic, and they don't really have anyone else, in my opinion, at wide receiver. So he's going to get a shot, and they're going to see what he can do. Then we got Mark Andrews, who's probably one of the best tight ends in the league. He's probably number 3, but he's super athletic and came out of nowhere in the 4th round. Not really out of nowhere, but he's super good. I'm really high on him, and I think everyone else should be too. I don't think the fantasy world is sleeping on him at all anymore. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Anthony, and your audio cleared up there about halfway through, Jason. So hopefully, don't touch any settings. Leave it right where it's at, and maybe we'll be good from here on out.
On there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I think I think the Ravens are a good team. I think they have a lot of pieces. If you have and you bought at a discount, like Lamar Jackson. I mean, I'd be looking to sell him if I had him. I just think his value is so high right now, in one quarterback, super flex, you name it. You can really just get a killing for him. So, other than that, I agree with you about, Brown. I hate starting players like that. They're so inconsistent. He's also a guy I would try to trade too if you have him, just because, you can't consistently rely on, a 60-yard touchdown pass. I mean, they didn't throw the ball that much last year, and so I'm a little concerned that you're going to be able to start Hollywood Brown with confidence. What do you think, Rick?
I mean, we're talking about a guy that was in his rookie year, and being inconsistent doesn't bother me at all. The upside that we saw from him just shows what this guy can do, and they're going to... Okay, so last year, the Ravens had the lead and big leads more than any team in the last 10 years. They're not going to always have those leads. They're not going to be able to run the ball as much as they did. They're going to have to score to win games more than they did last year. I mean, that team was up by 10-plus points a crazy amount of the season last year. And that just does not happen in the NFL, especially when you're playing, 6 of those games against teams in your division. You don't normally blow out all 6 of those games. They are going to have to throw the ball more. And Hollywood Brown, yes, he was consistent, but he was also a rookie, and he was also injured off and on throughout the entire season. So if he can get healthy, the upside is just immense with him. You have legit top 12 overall pick upside with Hollywood Brown. But with that comes the low floor that you get. So it depends on health with him. Mark Andrews, we don't have to talk about much because he's a beast. But that running back group's going to be very interesting. Oh, one more thing, Miles Boykin, he's getting a lot of hype so far this training camp. So he is a guy that you might be able to fire up if they have to throw the ball a little bit more. If he's ahead of Duvernay, Boykin might be the guy best suited for 8 to 10 targets per game. So he may be a guy that you could be starting by midseason if what they're saying coming out of Baltimore is true. But then that running back group's going to be tough to figure out. I mean, Gus Edwards was a super efficient back last year in a backup role. Dobbins coming in, and then obviously Mark Ingram was the big back to own last year. But there's kind of a triple-headed monster there because I don't think Gus Edwards is going to go away. And while they are going to try to run the ball as much as possible, I just don't know what's going to happen in that backfield this year. I don't know if it could end up being each guy gets 8 carries per game. Depending on that wall is going to come for Ingram at some point, right? And unless he pulls a Frank Gore and just continues getting 3.5 to 4 yards per carry every carry for 10 more years, but. But that's not likely. That's not the norm. So that wall's probably coming, and if that comes this year, then we could see a bigger role for Dobbins. Or if Dobbins just brings an electric play style to that team that they don't have, because Gus Edwards and Ingram aren't really electric, right? They get the shit done, and that's it. So if he brings a different electricity to that backfield, and you couple that with Lamar Jackson and the electricity he brings, it's gonna be an exciting backfield to watch for sure.
Yeah.
Anthony,
Yes,
you
sir.
are up now.
Yeah, my team for the AFC North is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're going to have a bounce-back year, I think. Big Ben is back. Hopefully he plays the whole year. I think without him last year, that's really why they struggled for the most part. Now, I don't think we're looking at a top 5 fantasy season from Big Ben, but I think quarterback 1 is certainly possible to be one of the top 12 quarterbacks. Running back, James Conner is back. Anthony McFarland is I guess the presumed backup at this point. Snell and Jalen Samuels, I don't know if they're going to factor in too much. I think this is mostly going to be Conner if he's healthy, and then otherwise I think it's just going to be pretty much a running back by committee until he's out of the lineup. Wide receiver I think is where they're deepest. They have Juju. We all know about Juju. They have Deontay Johnson, rookie, who last year as a rookie did pretty well, a lot better than people expected. And James Washington, now he's a third year guy. He's getting some nice kind of buzz in camp. And they surprisingly drafted Chase Claypool, who's a big-bodied, big upside receiver, fast. So they're just loaded at wide receiver. So if Big Ben can stay healthy, I think he's going to have a lot of fun dishing the ball around. Not to mention their tight ends. They brought in Eric Ebron, and they still have Vance McDonald. So, it looks like a high-flying offense if everything just kind of falls together. The concern is their defense is so good, maybe they won't have to throw the ball around that much. But beyond that, I think we're going to look at a pretty fun Pittsburgh Steelers team here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can't really argue. I think that I think James Conner's the guy, and I think people forget how good he was just 2 years ago when he was the lead back there. And even on a points per touch basis last year, he was very efficient, even though they had some turmoil there with Big Ben being down and maybe the worst quarterback play. If you can argue them, Panthers and the Bears probably as the worst quarterback play. Outside of turnover Winston and Tampa Bay, but I I think that Juju is going to have a bounce back. Maybe he's not wide receiver one. Maybe he sneaks into the back half of the wide receiver one group. We know he's got the talent, and last year with Big Ben being down, with Juju being injured on and off during the season, we didn't really get a good view of what that was going to be without Antonio Brown there. So I'm not ready to write him off. I thought he was overpriced this time last year because we didn't know. And obviously his price has dropped. I can't believe how far people are off of Juju right now in Dynasty. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me when you add all up that stuff that went wrong for the Steelers last year. But I think James McFarland's going to be a player that to watch out of the backfield with them. And then you've got at wide receiver Claypool, Johnson, Washington. I think they're all going to kind of cannibalize each other. Juju is definitely going to be their number one threat and their target leader, barring injury, obviously. So it's just a mess to figure out who's going to be that next guy after Juju. But if one of them can step up and take pressure off of Juju, then I think Juju is going to be a huge value for people that picked him up this offseason. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you guys are saying for the most part, and I think it's going to be a bounce back for this, this whole team as an offense. They've fallen off. Big Ben, you got Connor, and then you got Juju, who they kind of fell off the radar for a lot of people, and they're really down on them. But this offense was a juggernaut a few years ago, and I think that they can or get back to that level for sure. I really like McFarland and Claypool a lot. I think they're going to add a lot to the offense. I like what they did. And then you got Ebron, who's pretty athletic tight end, who's going to probably catch a lot of touchdowns from Big Ben because he likes to use the tight ends there.
Sorry, I have a best ball pick I have to make, and I was looking at the team here. So
good to get those in.
Anything else on the Steelers, Anthony, that you wanted to say there?
No, I mean, I think if Big Ben can stay healthy, then I see all these guys contributing at least as flex plays across the board. I just worry that if Big Ben does get hurt again, which is I think it's fair to say is very possible, then you're going to look at another kind of redo of 2019 because the backup quarterbacks they have there just, as we saw, just can't sustain this offense.
Don't disagree. So I'm actually picking Tyler Boyd right now, which fits right into what I'm about to talk about, the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the game right now. Our boy Joseph will tell you that Tyler Boyd has the most receptions out of the slot over the past 2 seasons. He was my favorite wide receiver in that class that he came out in. It was the same year as Sterling Shepard, Josh Doxson, Treadwell. One of the worst wide receiver classes in history. So I was glad that I got him in the back half of the first round a lot, and finally it started looking good. But he plays better with AJ Green on the field. AJ Green is actually running right now, which is new over the past year. So when you look at this team bringing in Burrow, and you've got guys like Boyd and AJ Green, if they can stay on the field, they're going to get quality passes thrown their way. At least we assume that, right? He's a rookie. Joe Burrow's a rookie, so he's going to go through his ups and downs, but the guy can pass the ball. That's not an issue. So even if he throws some picks, they're going to get a lot of high-quality targets. And then Joe Mixon in the backfield is just a monster. And I'm excited to see him with some people being able to take some pressure off of him, right? Because for the last basically year and a half, man, it's been Joe Mixon and then terrible quarterback play and not a lot of help from the passing game to take pressure off of him. So I look forward to seeing how that works out in Joe Mixon's favor. And he dominated in the second half, dominated so much that that coach, I can't remember his name, up in New England said that he may be the best running back in the NFL. And Belichick may know a thing or two about NFL players. So I like hearing it when it comes from him when he gives somebody praise, because he doesn't give people praise very often. But when you look at, past those two receivers, you got guys like John Ross and Auden Tate that don't excite me much. Obviously, John Ross has had some sparks here and there, but he can never stay on the field. Auden Tate is a big target, but slow. And then the guy that could, but is slowed right now is Higgins. And, getting injured in this year during training camp isn't a good year for a rookie to do that, because you're already behind as a rookie, because there hasn't been a lot of training camps and stuff, time for them to work with the quarterback. He needed that time, and him pulling up lame isn't going to help him at all. But hopefully he can bounce back and help that team this year. But right now, I think Auden Tate might be the guy that ends up catching some passes as that third receiver, because he's just been the most reliable over the last year, basically. But you just can't count on John Ross to stay on the field, and you don't know what you're going to get out of Higgins. So, but at tight end, there's nothing to even talk about. I mean, you might be a Uzoma fan, but I don't even know how to say his name. That's how disinterested I am in it.
Drew Sample.
He's a blocker, though.
Yeah.
He's a blocker, though. I don't know that. I mean, we'll see, but I'm not.
We'll
I mean,
see.
I'm not excited about it. I'm not going out of my way to go acquire him or anything. So,
Gotcha.
Anthony, what do you think?
Well, I'm a huge T. Higgins truther. I agree with what you said, Rick, that this isn't the year in 2020 to get hurt. You're already short in camp as it is. No preseason games, but you could also say, well, if you're going to get hurt in a preseason, this is the one to get hurt in, because it's not like you're really going to be doing a whole lot anyway. So I don't think T. Higgins is going to have a good 2020 for the reasons you talked about. But if he slips, if people, lose interest in him, I'm going to be buying him everywhere I can.
Yeah, he could definitely be a good buy.
Oh, yeah. So he's certainly someone that I'm targeting later on this year. He's certainly on my radar.
Yeah, hopefully he has a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside rookie season, and then you can buy him for like thirds and fourths next year because he didn't have a good season.
Yeah.
That would be great to get Higgins like that this next offseason.
Yeah, so I agree. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on them, Jason?
Yeah, I like Joe Burrow a lot. I think this offense has a lot of pieces, of course, and I think a lot of it comes down to their offensive line, because a lot of their guys were hurt, and they did really good job drafting, in my opinion. And they brought in some studs there. So I think they're going to, improve on the blocking and help Joe Burrow have time and give him, because he's going to have his ups and downs, like you said, Rick. And he's going to need to learn, and he's going to need that time in the pocket to make those throws. And I think AJ Green is, I'd be surprised if he plays the full season, but I really hope he does come back and, lights up that fire again. I like Joe Mixon, but I think a lot of talks were about how he is going to hold out. I don't know if that's still true or not, but still that's a possibility. But a lot of players don't even have the leverage to even hold out anymore with the new CBA. Like you said, at the tight end, there's not much there. Drew Sample was a second rounder, and he was hurt all last year, so we still don't even know what he can do on the field. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot of pieces there. Higgins that they just brought in as well. I think he's going to be thrown in the fire basically, and they're going to put him out there because there's not a lot of depth there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say is that, when you look at Dalvin Cook or you look at Melvin Gordon and Zeke and their holdouts, like yes, Mixon had a great second half last year, but he doesn't have that body of work that they had to really give him a lot of leverage. He really needs this improved offense because if he does what he did in the second half for the full season, like, he's going to be in a stratosphere by himself. So, I think he should definitely play and play with a talented group, as long as everybody stays healthy. But if they get to a point where they're not, relevant, then if I was him, I might consider pulling a hammy and not taking those extra hits.
Oh man,
Sandbag.
Sandbag.
Hey man, I'm about. You know what? I will be honest with you. I'm not about that either. But these running backs get, to put it bluntly, fucked. Going into that second contract, they get screwed, and they need to do whatever they need to do to ensure that they can last as long as possible, so they can make as much money as possible. They're the only position that you got to worry about not making a serious amount of money. Like, they're not getting $100 million contracts. I mean, what did Buda Baker just get? It was the highest contract for a safety,
I believe, around that range.
And
for 4 years or maybe 40.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. The running backs get screwed, and I would not blame one of them for saying, hey, we're 2-9 right now. I'm sitting out the rest of the year. There ain't no reason for me to keep taking hits.
Right. That makes sense.
It's crazy how bad they get screwed in the whole ordeal. So they obviously don't last as long, and that's tough for that position.
Problem, yeah.
Well, right, but that's why they don't get that second contract. So they're getting paid. They never get paid for what they've done, or it's hard for them to get paid for what they've done.
Right.
Whereas every other position, yeah, you might outperform your rookie contract, but that second contract, you're getting paid for what you've done and not for what you're going to do. And at running back, it's just different. Like, they're paying you for what they expect to happen, and that's for you to decline in efficiency and everything else during that contract. So it's just, I mean, have your kids be have your kids be wide receivers and quarterbacks. Don't have them be a running back. That's basically what I'm getting at here.
Right.
And then they'll make that money. Okay, the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I can run it through. I know Rob's not here. I'm happy to run it through. At quarterback, got Baker Mayfield. Running back, Nick Chubb. And Kareem Hunt. Yeah. So, I think, Baker, I wasn't high on him last year. I know a lot of people were drafting him kind of like Kyler Murray, like, oh, yeah, he's top 5 quarterback. And I just, I want to see it first. That's why with Kyler, I want to see it first. So Mayfield is there, and he has an opportunity now to do well. So we'll see if he can kind of put it together. He's got some improvements this year to help him out. And one of those improvements is, well, we just talked about Nick Chubb. So he's going to be the good early down running back. And then they have Kareem Hunt, who's going to factor in hopefully for the whole season now, not just half the season. And, I mean, you can argue they're the 2 best running backs on a single team in the league. I
don't even think there's an argument with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, so he's in a spot now where if the offensive line can hold up, running back, I mean, that's your dream as a quarterback. Wide receiver is not too bad either. They got Odell Beckham. Hopefully, he has a bounce back year. He had kind of a down year last year. People were kind of disappointed. Now he's fallen in drafts. I don't know. Maybe your best ball, you can kind of see where he went, but
I've got him in a lot of best ball leagues.
Yeah, I mean, he's just everywhere I see he's fallen. So I think he's due to have a good season. Jarvis Landry, people forget about Mr. Consistency, but this guy, I mean, it seems like every year he gets 90 catches, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Like, what do you want more from a guy like that? So I think they're pretty set there at the wide receiver position. And then they brought in Austin Hooper, and they still have Njoku. They can do a couple of tight end sets, and I'm interested to see what kind of Hooper does in there. There's more mouths to feed in Cleveland than we saw in Atlanta. So I expect Hooper not to have as good as a season as he did last year, but I think he can still be a top 12 tight end 1 this season. And so Browns, I think they have a fun team. I don't know what you guys think about the Browns.
I'll tell you this. It was 2 years ago when they drafted Mayfield that everybody was high on the Browns and their assets for fantasy, and that was with Antonio Callaway was one of the guys that everybody was buying, and Njoku that everybody was buying, and I'm more excited for this team now than I was that season. And here's part of the reason why, right? Hugh Jackson's gone. And then their experiment at head coach last year is gone. And they've got Stefanski coming in, who I actually, at least trust somewhat.
Not a Freddie Kitchens fan?
Freddie Kitchens was one of the most lost head coaches that I've ever seen. Everybody gives Adam Gase a hard time.
Yeah.
When you're so bad that you lose your job in Cleveland after 1 year,
Right.
there's problems. There are problems. They didn't even give him a chance to grow into that. Like, it was that bad. And he was a big reason why that team was very inefficient on the offensive side of the ball. I think Baker Mayfield takes a big step forward. I think that people forget OBJ still, with as bad as everybody talks about last year being, went over 1,000 yards with a sports hernia.
Right.
The dude played through a sports hernia. I would seriously not be surprised if he ended up the wide receiver 1 in 2020. I'm not saying he's going to, but if he did, I would not be surprised. That dude is so talented, and with a more efficient offense, hopefully putting Baker Mayfield in better spots is only going to help him. Plus, like, even for going over 1,000 yards, most of the time you're not going to only have 4 touchdowns. You're not going to just have 4 touchdowns. I see him in the 8 to 10 range, easy, and probably adding another 15 to 20 receptions and 150 to 200 yards. That's the type of guy that he is, and as long as he stays healthy, that has been the question with him. I think that this dude is going to dominate this year. I think he's got a lot to prove, and that offense has a lot to prove. But then Landry, that dude is, like you said, Mr. Consistent, but the guy I'm most excited to see is Kareem Hunt. It's not very often you have 2 backs in your backfield that legitimately alone could lead the league in rushing. And that's what they've got. They've got, Kareem Hunt, who's done it, and Chubb, who finished just behind Derrick Henry last year. And that duo is just, crazy. But Kareem Hunt's the one that I get excited about because he catches the ball out of that backfield. And I see that happening even more this year. And then, Hooper, I'm taking flyers on because you don't normally pay a tight end that much money and then not use them. So while he may not get the amount of targets that he got in Atlanta, I still think he's going to be highly used and utilized in that offense. What do you think, Jason?
I agree with everything you said there. I'm pretty excited about Baker, and I love watching him play on Sundays. It's awesome. He brings that energy, and the team evolves around him basically, and they listen to what he's doing. I like OBJ to rebound as well. I think he had a really down year, and like you said, he had a sports hernia, so he was playing with an injury and still put up great numbers, and not like super good, but I mean reasonable and respectable. And yeah, he's got the talent to be the number 1 receiver in the league. He's definitely that good. Then you got Kareem Hunt. I'm super high on. I got a lot of shares of him, and yeah, he's going to catch a lot of passes. And then Nick Chubb's going to run the ball. They're going to ground and pound with him. The tight ends, Njoku, I think he's going to rebound. He was hurt as well. He can chip in, and like you said, Hooper, they paid him a lot of money, but I think Njoku is just athletic, and they could run 2 tight end sets. Stefanski loves doing that. I saw him in Minnesota doing that a lot with, later on in the season with Irv Smith. So I'm pretty excited about the offense as a whole. I think they're going to be much improved.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to The Chicago Bears of the NFC North. And I just want to let everybody know, if you're in the chat, if you drop any questions when we get done with this section, and we're going to fly through this one, but we'll answer those questions after this bit. So we've got 4 more teams to go, then we'll answer those questions. But the Chicago Bears, obviously my favorite team. It's I do my best to not be biased when we're talking the Chicago Bears, but Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller are 2 guys that I'm extremely excited for this year, because no matter what, this passing game is going to be better than it was last year. And there's the big debate: who's the starter? Is it Trubisky? Is it Foles? I can tell you this: even if Trubisky starts the season, if he doesn't improve on what he did last year, then Foles is going to be in, and it's going to be hard for Foles, even if you don't like him, to play as bad as Trubisky did last year. I know Anthony was in the team chat last year, and every Sunday, what was I screaming and yelling? I was pissed off because Trubisky missed Anthony Miller on another deep open pass, and Anthony Miller gets so much separation. He showed out at the last 6 weeks of the season last year. He showed what I'd been preaching up since he got drafted, and I'm excited for him to get some solid quarterback play, and I'm hoping that comes this year. It doesn't have to be great, but if it's better than what we had last year, then that's going to be a big improvement for that offense, and that's also going to help David Montgomery at running back, because when
that was another thing you were yelling at was David Montgomery, not getting the ball consistently.
Well, it was very inconsistent. Nagy needs to improve on his play calling too. Last year he was very bad with play calling, but if you don't have to worry about the quarterback, then all you do is put pressure on the run game. And that's what people did to the Bears last year. The offensive line wasn't good. A lot of injuries, too. There's not a lot of movement on that offensive line this year, so it is scary. But hopefully they can stay healthy and play as a unit. I don't even know how many games the starting unit actually played together last year, but it wasn't many. So you need to get that continuity going. But just getting some pressure taken off that running game is going to help David Montgomery. He's, I was very high on him coming out. I couldn't believe that he lasted as long as he did. But the usage is what always scares me with Nagy, especially with Tariq Cohen there, right? It's going to be hard to get a lot of pass catching work out of that backfield. But I really hope Nagy switches it up so people don't know. Montgomery's in, they're running. Cohen's in, they're passing. Cordarrelle Patterson's in, they're doing whatever the hell he was trying to do last year. I just, they need to quit getting so cute,
Yeah.
Run an offense, and you don't have to have a shit ton of trick plays, right? You utilize them when people don't expect them. But when you run them all the time, people expect them all the time, so they're waiting for it. And I'm not. Ted Ginn is just a burner. Probably not going to get a lot of targets. Riley Ridley and is probably the next up. And I thought it was Javon Wims, but there's been a lot of positive talk about Riley Ridley. Obviously, a good route runner. But other than that, I'm not going out to get Jimmy Graham at tight end. But Cole Commet, the talk right now is Cole Commet out of Chicago. Jimmy Graham said, this dude reminds me of a young me, and everybody that's been playing fantasy football or watching football for 12 years knows a young Jimmy Graham was dominant. And if we had that Jimmy Graham now, we'd all be putting him right up there with Kittle and Kelsey at the top of the tight end board. So Komet was my top tight end out of the draft before the Bears drafted him. And I actually wanted the Bears to go offensive line when they drafted him, but they didn't. But I think there's a lot of upside there. But obviously we gotta lower our expectations for rookie tight ends. Jason, what are your thoughts, Vikings fan? Piece of shit.
Right? No, I like the Bears. I like their offense. they brought in Foles and then Trubisky. He's not very consistent, but he's very athletic, and I think it kind of depends on what they want to do. Obviously, it's going to be a battle there. And then you got Montgomery. I really like what I saw out of him last year. He put up a lot of yards, and they're just ground and pound with him. That's awesome. And Tariq Cohen's going to kind of chip in there, catch some passes here and there. I think that people are kind of sleeping on him too as well because he can chip in as well at the running the ball and catching out of the backfield. I think that he'll be on the field a lot, and they might even use him out of the slot in my opinion. I like Allen Robinson a lot. He's awesome. He's pretty damn solid. He's put up consistent numbers, and he's pretty disrespected in the fantasy community, but people are starting to wake up about him. And then Miller, he's super talented. He was a great talent. I think he's gonna surprise a lot of people because that's another slept-on guy. And then Cole Commet, I'm very high on him. I think he's gonna be the next, probably Jimmy Graham, or he's gonna be up there with Kittle and Kelsey very soon.
Oh, damn, that's high praise. I'm not willing to go that far, but I like it. As a Bears fan,
yep.
I like it. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my overall consensus. My overall consensus on the Bears is that all these guys can be bought at a good value right now. They can all be bought at a good value.
Yep.
You hit it home with Nagy. I mean, they didn't run the offense the right way. As a result, almost all these guys suffered from a fantasy perspective. So if you can buy any of these players other than quarterback at a discount, I'd say go for it because I think all these guys are going to have higher value by the end of this year.
Yeah, even the quarterbacks though, whether you like them or not, they're almost free right now. And whether you like Trubisky, if Trubisky passes the ball decently, and they utilize him in the run game, like people forget before he got injured in 2018, he was leading all NFL quarterbacks in rushing yards. He had a stretch from like week 11 to week 15 last year where he was one of the highest scoring fantasy quarterbacks in the league because they got back to using him as a rushing quarterback as well. He can do a lot of damage in that area. So when you look at his price and you look at the fact that he could put up 16, 17 points per game, what you're getting for that 16, 17 points per game in fantasy is immensely cheap right now. And then we've seen Foles have big years. It's just there's upside at least with those guys, even if it's not consistent. If you're in a 1 QB league, like you can, if you have both of them, you can plug one in to start a week, and they're probably not going to kill you from a fantasy perspective, whereas they may kill the Bears in a real life perspective. Like you gotta remember, you gotta separate that, right? Like Jameis Winston last year, right? When you turn the ball over 30 times combined, or even Daniel Jones, who turned it over almost 30 times for the Giants, you can still be good in fantasy even if you're turning the ball over while you're still killing the team that you play for in real life. So people do need to separate that a little bit. At their prices, they definitely should be rostered for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, the only problem is you have to roster both at this point because now the news just came out right before we started that Foles was itching toward taking the starting job. So
which I've been telling you guys all off season that Foles is going to end up being the starter.
Yeah,
I mean, he just throws the ball better than he's more Alex Smith than Trubisky is, and Foles isn't as good as Alex Smith. That's not what I'm saying, but he can probably run that offense as good as or closer to what Alex Smith did when Nagy was in KC with Alex Smith 3 years ago.
He can make all the throws. That's
right,
and that's why he won a Super Bowl. I mean, that makes sense.
Okay, next up on our list is Jason with the purple people eaters.
That's right. It's my squad. We got Cousins, who's he's pretty slept on in my opinion. He's pretty solid. Not fantasy wise. I think he needs more pieces around him and more protection. That's the thing with him is he needs the time in the back, and so he can step and throw. And I think he's gonna have a really good year. They got Theo, and he's going to be catching the rock. I think he's going to be very busy. And then they brought in Jefferson, who's a great talent, and we're gonna have to wait and see with him. But the expectations are very high. He's at a great camp, and then you got Cook in the backfield. He's a stud, but like I said, he might hold out just like Mixon. You never know, really. But I think he's a gamer, and he's gonna want to play. But Madison as well is in the backfield. He's gonna chip in. They're gonna, he's gonna probably be on the field for 40% of the time, in my opinion. They're gonna keep Cook fresh, and they're gonna, save him for the postseason, because I see them going there. And then you got BC Johnson, who's a wide receiver as well. He's having a really good camp, and I think he's gonna be productive because, Jefferson's still learning. They're gonna need somebody that's gonna be reliable. And then you got Rudolph at the tight end and Irv Smith. Both of those guys are probably going to cannibalize each other, but they're going to be out on the field no matter what, because Minnesota loves to run the ball, and they're going to have their big guys in there. So I'm really high on Irv Smith. I think he's going to have a great year. He's going to be very active. And what do you guys think?
What do you think, Anthony?
I mean, the only player I think you kind of missed was Madison. I think, to back up Cook, I think he's one of the best handcuffs in the league. I know we don't need to necessarily handcuff running backs in Dynasty, but I think he's a great handcuff to have. I think he's a great back to have, even if you don't have Dalvin Cook. I think he is a very talented player. He's shown when Cook was out, that he can carry the ball. He can catch out of the backfield pretty well. He's a very, very good player. So I just think that he's someone to target. If you have Cook, I think you should try to get him, because I am concerned, like you said, Cook could still hold out, or he could sandbag, like in Mixon's example that Rick gave. Maybe he'll hold out halfway through the year. I don't know, but I do think Madison is someone, at least at a minimum, keep an eye on. See if you can acquire at the right price.
Yeah, I think that if you have Madison and something does happen with Cook, that's an excellent sell, because I'm not nearly as high on Madison's talent as I am the opportunity, obviously.
Right.
We say this all the time, touches equal points, right? Melvin Gordon was never the most efficient running back, but he got so many touches, and that's what Madison's going to get if Cook is out, is he's going to get 18 to 20 carries in that offense, and that's always going to look good, but that doesn't mean that you're going to remain a running back in the league for very long. So I think that if that hype gets there again, that's a perfect time to sell Madison, but I'd probably wait till then, because with Dalvin Cook, no matter what, you're probably going to get that opportunity at some point throughout this year, right? I don't know that any of us expect Cook to start 16 games.
No.
I mean, I don't expect a lot of running backs to start 16 games, so I'm not like going off on the injury train here, but the best of them miss some games. I expect McCaffrey to miss at least 2 games this year. That's just the average after somebody getting 400 touches. But yeah, I think Madison's going to be a good sell at some point, and I don't see his long-term value in Dynasty, so I would be looking to do that. But Cook, I think he's going to play. And I think that, as Jason said, they have less leverage now with that CBA. The running back position just gets screwed. And they about have to play now. And I think that's going to happen. And I've drafted him a bunch in these best ball leagues. Not worried about it at all. Just too much upside there. And the talent's just too good to really, you can't sell low, so you're not going to be able to buy him, right? You're going to still be buying him for, top 6 dynasty value probably. So you're not really getting a discount. And I don't see, with the players ahead of him, I don't see him getting any more valuable. So it's hard to pay that price for him if you didn't get him before his season last year, right? But then Thielen, like, he's so hyped up right now, and I don't see it. I don't see him being a top 12 receiver. I think that without Diggs taking pressure off of him, it's going to be a lot harder for him to win all those battles. He's really good at beating that corner 2. I don't know if he's that good at beating the corner 1. And we haven't seen that big game out of him since he had that stretch of 9 straight 100-yard games, and that was in
Yeah.
2018. And I know he had some injuries last year, but I think whether you like Diggs or not, Diggs takes a lot of pressure. He commands a lot of attention, and unless one of them other receivers step up big this year, that's going to make it a lot harder on Thielen. But then, yeah, Cousins he's solid. You know what you're going to get out of him. Jefferson is a guy that I do like a lot, but I think, it's just hard to tell. I don't know what, outside of a couple rookies, I don't know what, advice to give people on these guys. The only advice that I feel comfortable giving is don't read too much into 2020. Don't go this time next year. Don't be selling these guys off cheap because you didn't like the 2020 season they had. We don't know what these guys are going to be able to do in this weird season. So just bite down. It might suck. Hold on to these guys and let them develop, because this year's not a developmental year for these guys. So that's,
you have to temper expectations.
Right.
For sure.
So that's really all I can say in regards to that. But I think Anthony and I got a bet we're gonna place here live, unless I just talked him right out of it.
I know, now I'm worried. No, I disagree with you on Thielen. I think Thielen is just going to be a PPR machine this year. I think they're gonna find ways to get him the ball, kind of like how the Niners, got Deebo Samuel the ball last year. I think we're gonna see Thielen get involved a lot this year. I don't think if they put too much focus on Thielen, then Cook's gonna tear it up. They have Irv Smith. So I disagree with your premise that Diggs is like the X factor for Thielen. I don't think that that's true. So I think our bet was going to be regarding Allen Robinson. So I don't know how we're going to do this with injuries, because maybe Allen Robinson's going to miss the year again. Maybe Thielen's going to miss half the year. I don't know how you want to handle that situation.
Okay, so I know that when Nikolai and I used to host the pod together, we used to do a bunch of bets, and what we would do is they had to play within 2 games of each other.
Okay.
So if one plays 10, one plays 8, then you're within 2. And the bet's still on. If people get injured and stuff, then they go out. But the bet was Allen Robinson scores more PPR fantasy points in 2020 than Adam Thielen. Because Anthony, on our top 10 wide receiver video that dropped today, said that Thielen needed to be in the top 10 and he would replace Allen Robinson. And yes, I think Allen Robinson has top 5 potential with good quarterback play. I mean, the dude has played with Bortles and Trubisky in his career, with a couple Chase Daniels sprinkled in there. Not premier quarterback play we're talking about here.
Yeah, I'm a homer, and I don't know if I would do that bet, to be honest. I like Allen Robinson a lot, and I think he's the better, far more superior wide receiver for sure.
Ooh,
well,
Vikings
fantasy.
Fan on my side.
This is fantasy. We're
talking
PPR. I just want those catches, baby, and it's going to be Thielen's year.
Okay, so $20 virtual handshake. I have Allen Robinson.
I like it.
You have Adam Thielen.
No, elbow.
Oh yeah, elbow. Okay. All right, that's the deal. We gotta run through these last couple teams here. We have the Detroit Lions. Shouldn't take very long.
No, I'll go through these guys pretty quick.
Have Brad hop in.
I think he's playing Warzone now since he said he would fill in, but our 4th didn't show.
It's okay. We got quarterback, Stafford. I mean, we all know who Stafford is. Last year he missed half the year, so if he plays the full season, I think before he got hurt he was like top 5 fantasy quarterback or something like that. So, he can definitely still play. A lot of people are sleeping on him, but I think he's going to have a good year as long as he stays healthy. Running back, Carryon Johnson. His quote cracked me up. I don't know if you saw his knee brace quote. He said he's one with the knee brace. So, I I don't feel good about my running backs having knee braces. I don't care what they say. They've also they drafted Deandre Swift. He's kind of buzzing in camp, so I think to start the year it's going to be kind of a committee. But I
Buzzing
see.
for the wrong
What?
reasons, though, right? Because
Yeah,
last
but
I heard was the buzz was that he was way behind.
yeah, but yeah, again, that's just because of COVID. I think once we get through like the first half of the season, Swift is going to take over the backfield. So up until that point, I think they're going to be sharing the ball quite a bit. Kind of a running back by committee. But I think by the halfway point, I see Swift taking off because I don't feel it with Carryon and his knee brace. I'm sorry. Wide receiver, Galladay, I think, is the best wide receiver they have there. Marvin Jones, don't forget about him. He's a little bit older now, but he's still involved. I mean, that guy is just incredible. It's like every year he just comes out. And I think last year, Galladay and him ended the season at about the same points, even though Marvin Jones missed some games. And so, if you're contending, I think Marvin Jones is a good buy right now. They also have Danny Amendola. I'm not worried about him. He never seems to stay healthy for the full slate of games. And then they drafted Quintez Cephas, who I know Brad likes a lot. I think at the price, sure. I mean, we'll see what happens with him. And then at tight end, Hawkinson. I'm really big on Hawkinson. I think last year he started strong, but then he got kind of hampered with some injuries. I think if he stays healthy, he's going to be pretty good this year. And that kind of rounds out the Lions. So not a whole lot to get excited about, but I think there's some shining diamonds here in the rough.
Yeah, I think Galladay I would like to have just about everywhere because I think this team's going to be throwing a lot because I don't think that defense is going to be very good. And I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, and we've seen what Galladay can do with the targets last year. He was in, spoiler alert, he is in the top 10 video if you want to go watch that. But then Marvin Jones is a good buy. Just a solid guy. He's not going to, probably wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 2 if they throw that much. But I do think Danny Amendola is a PPR threat when he's on the field. We need that offensive line to play better because we need Hawkinson to run routes and not have to block. I mean, this dude showed what he could do in week 1 of last year. Uber talented, but just we need him running routes. I disagree. I think, Swift is the second most talented back on that team. I think Carryon Johnson's more talented. Staying on the field is the important part there. But I don't see Swift ever being a guy that's going to carry the load from a rushing perspective. I think he just goes down too easy. And we're going to see about that here and just coming up here in a couple weeks when this football season starts. But we'll see if he can do it against NFL players because I watched more tape on him the other day because people keep telling me I'm wrong. But when I see these holes that Deandre Swift is running through it, I'm just like, damn, dude, like you could drive a truck through that hole. No wonder why he's not getting hit. And then when he does get hit, yeah, he could run over the cornerbacks, but yeah, I mean, the dude wasn't getting hit till he was like 10, 12 yards down the field, and then he would break that tackle, and then he'd get a lot of yards after contact, and then a lot of the times when the D-line did get their hand on him, it seemed like he went down too easy, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I do like Carryon a lot. I've been buying Carryon a lot, and especially in these best balls, because I think that he's definitely talented, but they're never going to be a one running back team. They are going to be an RBBC. They're going to be a New England 2.0.
Yeah.
And that's the part that really sucks for all the running back pieces there. I mean, we even seen it a couple years ago we were talking about Theo Riddick earlier, and him vulturing, receiving touchdowns from the backs, but we did see Bo Scarborough, and I think that's one guy that people forget about. If Carryon and Deandre Swift aren't running the ball very well, we could see both of them kind of turn into PPR backs, and Bo, who actually performed pretty well last year, get some carries for that team. So, yeah, Stafford, though, you got to have him. Dude just puts up fantasy points. slinging that ball. Jason.
Yeah, Stafford's a stud. I really like him a lot. It's fun to watch him play. He kind of tears up, defenses. He shreds them up. Galladay is going to be very busy. He's his favorite target. He's going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns. He's probably, he's up there in the wide receivers. He's very talented. I'd want to buy him everywhere I can. I don't know about the Carryon take. I think I'm a little higher on Swift. As a lot of people are sleeping on him, but I think that he could be pretty electric out on the field on Sundays. And I also like Hawkinson a lot. I think he's going to be very busy, and Stafford's going to be looking for him as well.
Yeah, I do want to say that I do think Swift can be a very valuable PPR back. I just don't see him, and for where people wanted to draft him and where they ranked him, I want a guy that can be a 3-down back at that price. And I think in this rookie class, we had a lot of guys that I feel comfortable with at that. In that, when you're talking about Akers, Dobbins, Taylor, and I'm missing one. Sorry, my back hurts. I'm missing one.
Clyde Edwards.
Clyde Edwards. Not Clyde. Oh, Keyshawn Vaughn. I think those guys can all be 3-down backs. I feel comfortable with them rushing the ball and getting 15 to 20 carries a game. Where I don't feel that way with Deandre Swift. I just don't know that he's going to be able to do that and be efficient. So that's what I'm saying when I'm talking about Swift. I do think he could be a great Austin Eckler type, right? Get 50 to 100 carries, but catch the ball 70, 80 times in a season and be very dynamic in open field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, I guess I agree with that. I just think of the two, if this was a regular year, and we had preseason and training camp and all that, I would say Swift will have more fantasy points than Kerryon Johnson. But because we're not in a regular year, I don't see that happening. But I understand what you're saying, Rick.
Good. I'm glad you do. All right, Green Bay Packers. I'll go ahead and run through this real quick because it's a short list, right? We've got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. We've got Aaron Jones at running back. Devontae Adams at wide receiver. And maybe Alan Lazard at wide receiver. Those are probably the only 4 guys that you're going to look at starting in week 1. Am I missing anybody? I don't think so.
Nope. I think you're on it.
Devin Funchess opting out hurts that wide receiver core, but it does open up the potential for a breakout of sorts for somebody like Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yes.
Or if you're on the smart side and you're playing chess, Equinemius St. Brown, who missed all of last year but was running out of the slot for this team a lot 2 years ago at the end of the season. Big slot target. Rodgers was talking him up a lot. If he can take that slot job for the Packers, you could get a lot of value for a guy that's free right now. MVS did not perform with his opportunity last year, and he had plenty of it. So I'm kind of leaning the way of getting as much ESB as possible at his price, and then if he hits, you make out a bunch. If he doesn't, it didn't cost you anything, right? He's never had a high price, so no matter how you got him right now, he was not expensive. But I think there's a lot of potential there in that offense. Because they don't have very many pass catchers. People are worried about an Aaron Jones letdown after last year. I don't see it. I see him catching a lot of balls out of that backfield because they don't have many wide receivers. And he wasn't even as efficient running the ball last year as he was in years prior. And this team is going to get chewed up on the ground because they were already not good at stopping the run, and they lost Blake Martinez, and that's a huge hole for them. They're going to struggle stopping the run this year, I think, and they're going to have to pass the ball, and I think Aaron Jones is going to be a big part of that. But you've also got A.J. Dillon, who they drafted high. I don't know how much action he's going to get. And then Jamal Williams, who will also be active in the passing game. But I think there's 4 guys right now that you're comfortable starting, and after that, It's a wait and see approach on everybody else. Anthony.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think the best players to buy right now is ESB. I like ESB. I like MVS. Lazard is he's overvalued right now. I mean, he's not worth the price. So don't buy Lazard. Does he have the best chance to be relevant this year? Maybe, but I'm not going to pay for that floor because there's no floor. I mean, it's he could be nothing by by second month of the season. Sternberger, I think, is Jimmy Graham's no longer there. I think Sternberger is a upside tight end, very athletic. So I think if you're looking for a cheap tight end, I think he has a lot of upside. And then a lot of people worried about Jordan Love coming in, getting drafted in the second round of this year's draft. But even if you have Rodgers, it's really not something to worry about because even if the Packers do turn to Jordan Love, Rodgers will be on another team starting for another team. So I don't think there's really too much to worry about from the fantasy perspective on the Aaron Rodgers front.
Yeah, I do want to say the point you made about Alan Lazard. He is kind of the Geronimo Allison MVS from this time last year, right? Because they kind of showed in 2018 and then completely disappointed in 2019. That could be Alan Lazard in 2020, just like you said. Jason, what were your thoughts?
I agree on that. I'd sell Lazard as fast as possible. I think he's way too high. I really feel bad for Rodgers, to be honest, because they've put nothing around him besides Devontae Adams in the second round, and they had chances, to draft a wide receiver, which everyone in the world wanted them to do that, So it's like it didn't make any sense to me why they would draft Love in the first round and then go running back in the second because they probably don't want to pay Aaron Jones. I think they're going to let him walk after next year, but they're going to get their use out of him, in my opinion. They're going to work him into the ground as fast as they can.
Absolutely.
And then I don't think it's going to be. What's that?
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, no. And then the other guy I wanted to touch on was Sternberger. I think he has potential to be something. He's pretty athletic tight end. He's got potential in the red zone. So, what do you guys think?
No, I would just say on Sternberger real quick, the only thing that gets me is we do this every year, right? There's a pass-catching tight end that gets hyped up because he plays for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, and then 3 months later we're all going, why the hell isn't this dude getting any fantasy points? We did it with Jared Cook when he was there. We see what Jared Cook does when he's utilized, right? He scores a lot of fantasy points. We seen it with Jimmy Graham when he got there. He was coming off of a resurgent type year with Seahawks, and then they don't utilize the tight end very much. I don't trust it. So that would be my only thing with Sternberger. But I do think he definitely got talent there. But just I don't know if they'll use him.
Yeah, I mean, I just think for the price, I mean, Sternberger is worth the price. I mean, I think you could, in the one tight end regular league, you could get him for like a third. I mean, so I think the upside's there for him.
Oh, gotcha. What else did you have? You were laughing and we're going to say something, and was that it?
Well, no, it was funny because I was just going to mention that when Jason said, everyone was like, how come they're not getting any help for Rodgers? This is coming from a Vikings fan. I mean, even the Vikings fans like, come on, help out my fantasy team.
Well, I
I
can tell you, we were doing the live draft coverage when it was going on, right? We were on here, we were live, and Rob Silvers was with us, the Packers fan, and his face when they drafted Love was priceless. And then the second round comes around, and you're like, okay, there's still a bunch of wide receivers on the board. And then his face the second time when they literally drafted their best player is Aaron Rodgers. They drafted a quarterback. Then their second best player last year was Aaron Jones, and they drafted a running back. And it's like, you've got your other best player, Devontae Adams, the one that needs you to draft his position, and you don't do it.
Help him out, too. Yep.
and it's like,
Take some pressure off.
It made no sense. And as Bears fans, as Vikings fans, we get a chuckle out of it. But at the same time, like, I always tell people, I'm a Bears fan, but I'm an NFL fan first. I'm a football fan, and you can't not give Aaron Rodgers respect for what he's done, and whether he's in the division or not, whether he's for my most hated rival, like it's not fair to him. To put it bluntly, it's just not fair to Aaron Rodgers that your organization would allow that to happen and not bring you in to help when you were in the NFC Championship game, and and you have a chance to do that because of the quarterback you have, and then you don't help him. Is just it's crazy. It's crazy to me. But that wraps it up. That wraps it up, and it looks like I was told you guys are always running this during Hard Knocks. It's Tuesday night,
okay.
9:30. We can't change it every week, but we don't have any questions. Somebody did ask if they missed the Burrow hype. I don't know when you got here, so I don't know if you did or not. But we are hyped about Burrow and that Cincy offense. But we will be back next Tuesday with the AFC and NFC South. And then we've got one final week before the season comes into play. Right? No, next week's the last week that we don't have football, right?
Yeah, it's so weird with this, without preseason
Yeah,
games.
so 2 weeks from Thursday is the first game. So next Tuesday is our last off-season show, and then we get into the in-season content, and we're excited about that. But don't forget, IDP Monday nights 9:30 Eastern. Wednesday is the Fantasy Inferno redraft live stream. Thursday is the Devy League live stream. And then Friday night, starting in the season, we will have DFS at 9:30 on Friday nights. And then we will have some stuff moving around. Obviously, Monday nights and Thursday nights, we're not going to be streaming. At least I'm assuming they're not going to be streaming during the NFL games. So we might end up getting like a couple nights doubled up, or they might do some pre-recorded stuff on the Mondays and Thursday nights so that you don't miss out during the show, or during football, I should say. But and then Sundays, I have the pregame. I'm gonna have times out here coming soon, but I do an hour for everybody, and then I do an hour for our Patreon subscribers only. So they are the second one. So the first will be open. It'll probably run from like 10 in the morning till 11 Eastern, and then I'll have something from like 11:15 till 12:15 to 12:30. I just got to give myself enough time to make sure all my lineups are set between DFS and Dynasty and everything like that. So that's all coming up here. We're only 2 weeks away. I think it's 16 days now before football starts. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got great redraft content coming out. I've got the team putting together the in-season content so that we're all ready to drop that. DFS content's going to be coming. And probably going to have some videos next week on week one and making some money. So, yeah, we appreciate everybody that tunes in, everybody that watches, and I appreciate you guys giving up your Tuesday night and showing up every week to be on the show. So, any last words?
No, that's all. I appreciate the time. If you guys have any questions, hit me up on Facebook. I'm happy to help out anytime with any questions you guys have in the group, and also follow me at TikTok. I put out a video earlier today.
TikTok at Roto Heat. Jason.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys, and it's been a lot of fun talking football, of course, and it's getting exciting as the season's going to start. Check out our Patreon and our Discord. I mean, that's a great source. We can help you out with your, if you're drafting or whatever lineup questions you have. We're always willing to help you guys, so